Now, Deputy Trade Minister Robert Ahumkalensi came under serious criticism for suggesting diasporans hoping to do business in Ghana whine too much. The comment and subsequent reactions brings to question the bigger issue of the general attitude of Ghanaians and the seeming failure by authorities to enforce disciplinary laws. Beatrice Edo has been finding out more. She started off from the N1 highway, where pedestrians choose to cross the road beneath the walkway instead of using it.
Ghanaians in and out of the country have a lot of issues they worry about. Why we do things the way we do them, and why the laws in the country don't seem to work. Do we whine too much when we talk about them? First, I start off from the N1 highway. Between La Paz and Kwashiman traffic lights, there are 3 pedestrian walkways. But it will amaze you that people choose to cross the highways even when the pedestrian walkway is so close to them. As we drive on this way, we see many people cross the highway, even at the peril of their own lives. Many people have died out of crossing the highway when they could use the pedestrian walkway, but they still go ahead and do them anyway. Why do we do that? Whilst the pedestrian walkway is just right behind me, people have chosen to walk beneath it. And the pedestrian walkway that is meant to be used to save their own lives is empty. Not a single person is walking on it. In Accra New Town, commercial drivers do what they want. They park in the middle of the road and pick or allow passengers to get off their cars, even when other drivers are angry and blowing horns at them. But is there anything wrong with us? What is the matter? I have here with me someone who sells in this community, Accra New Town here. Hello, sir. Welcome to Joy News.
Oh, thank you. I will say the laws are working, unless you have not met the law. Whenever you get to the law works. But it's the general attitude of Ghanaians. I will not say, because sometimes you meet somebody and you'll be shocked at what he's doing on the road. And you ask him, what is happening?
Like what?
Oh, actually, you meet somebody in the car throwing rubbish into the gutter. And when you ask the person to pick it, he'll ask you, why? Excuse me to use my language. We are buying. We are buying. So sometimes I don't know what is going on.
First is our attitude. And the authorities too are not enforcing the law.
How?
When you see that you are doing some wrong thing, they just overlook on it. Even the officials who are detailed to use the law, they themselves are abusing the law.
Can you give any examples?
Now, when you go to office, something like office, let me sense a court where you go put your case there. Let me say that you have a rent problem, and you send it to them. They know that the tenant is offending the landlord. They know that it's offending the landlord, but they go aside to the tenant, and they'll be tossing the landlord up and down, up and down. At times, they go to the extent that go and collect money from the tenant, and then they'll be tossing the landlord. Something that have been judged, they take it to the judge, and the judge judge that the tenant should move. Could you believe that this tenant sits inside for more than 6 months without moving? When you go, they say, go and make paper, go and mind this. Those things, it means they are not doing their work. If they are not doing their work, then we who are at the back, we shall do any other thing to worry the people.
So you mean that the problem is from top to down, everybody?
Oh, top. The top people, they are not enforcing the correct thing. If they do the correct thing, you see that those subordinates who do that whole thing. This Rollins time. Let me sense Rollins. I don't know that he is. Though that I didn't think he's the correct person. But his time now, when there's a law, you see how they implement it. Fast. Everything becomes law. When they heard that the authorities are coming, you see the officials will do everything. Now everything is relaxed. Oh, when you go, sir, they won't do anything.
Stinky gutters, and we go on to even later very prime places like the Kwame Nkrumah Circle interchange. I moved to La, and the most evident natural resource here is the sea. You can hear beautiful waves in the background. In many countries, the seashore is a tourist site, but here in Ghana, and precisely at La in Accra, it's a dump site and a place where residents along the seashore defecate every morning. But the question is, how long will it take for Ghanaians to stop whining, at least about basic things? My name is Beatrice Edu for Joy News.
But how can Ghana change this attitude and ensure the law works? We've been joined by Dr. George Menu. He's a sociologist. Thanks for joining us on News Today, Dr. Menu. So how can Ghana change this?
We're talking about, thank you very much, and good afternoon to your listeners. We're talking about how we can change from this attitude, right?
Yes.
There are a few things that we can consider. People oftentimes are not very, very certain about the direction of change. Policies are not very clear. They are not clearly communicated. Why should we change? And oftentimes, because they are not too clear, people cannot really understand and buy into it and participate in the change process. That's one main reason. The other reason also is people oftentimes are very uncertain. They are very uncertain as to if they change, what's really going to happen, because they've lived with this type of attitude for some time. It's become part of the status quo of their lives. So they're not too sure. They can't predict the change. And if they can even, then they ask themselves, how can this be sustained? They are used to an old system. And when we don't communicate the need for change in clear terms, all right, then it breeds all this issue of uncertainty. People are also afraid of losing out what they have gained, what they have invested in their society, in their families, their personal beings. Sort of, the totality of people as they walk around implies some level and form of investment, how they see things, how they do things, and all that. And the question is, do we let go all this for what we really don't know? So there is this element of fear of losing out.
But doctor, is there at all a concerted effort, a deliberate effort to get Ghanaians to change this mentality and the action associated with it?
Yes. Definitely there have always been patches of efforts. I say patches because I don't see in Ghana any consistent effort, at bringing out changes. But then again, let me just go back. I'll address this because these are resistors of change. Okay, if they also believe that change is not always in their interest, all right, then it's also a problem. But you say, is there an effort? Sure, there is an effort, but oftentimes it's not that which can be sustainable. There must be in place appropriate policies.
So finally, say, how do we implement sustainable processes for change?
Sure. When policies address issues, there got to be mechanisms of implementing and monitoring. All right, and of course, there are so many things that will go into this. Education is very paramount. Education not only through the media is very, very important in this area, but we also need to understand that this has been a lifestyle over several years, and therefore coming up with curriculum addressing some of these change processes from primary school right through is also very important, so that as we grow with a new mentality and an attitude of addressing some of these environmental issues that you've been discussing. Communication is very important, and also education is very important. We must find a way to also...
for the sake of time, I would have to end it here. Thank you very much for your time and for joining us. He is an expert in the sector. He's a sociologist talking to us there. about, how to change our attitude, something that we all need as Ghanaians. Now, all is set for the President Otumfuo Osei to account for his stewardship since he took over the reins of power 6 months ago. In a couple of minutes, the president will be engaging a selected group of media personnel to quiz him on his government's achievements over the last 6 months. So, how far will the takeoff of the main event? Joy News' Elton John Brobe is our presidential correspondent participating in that encounter. He joined us live with updates. Elton, how soon is the president expected to be seated for the encounter?
I said that we are just minutes away from the event itself. The advertised time is 12:30, which gives us some 20 minutes away from the event itself. For now, the banquet hall of the first half house is almost full to capacity. The only persons missing, perhaps I can say, is the President of the Republic, the Vice President, and people from his cabinet. In the room right now, we have, the sitting arrangement is such that we have ministers of state on the left side of where I'm standing, and then we have party officials of the MPP and people who work at the President's Secretariat also on the right side. So some of the ministers of state have already seated. I can see the Minister for Employment, the Minister for Lands, the local government minister, Haji Ali Mahama, Professor from Pongwa, the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Kwamina Batel, and, few of them, as a matter of fact, their side of the seating is almost full to capacity. And then on the right side, I can see the chairman of the MPP, Freddie Blay, together with his acting general secretary, John Kwedu, the national treasurer, and some people who work directly at the office of the president, including the attorney general and few others.
So, Elton, can you run us through?
The security guys are screening those who are coming in. The media personnel are also seated. Seating arrangement here is such that, as a matter of fact, I can't see any vacant seats here as far as the media representation is concerned. Some, notable faces here already for the program to start at 12:30. The information is that the information minister, Mustafa Hamid, will moderate the event according to the plan of action we have for today. It will welcome everybody to the room. President Otumfuo Osei is expected to deliver a 10 to 15 minutes address, after which the floor will be open for those who have questions to ask, to mount the microphone positions at some vantage points for them to do so. And then we'll get the event underway. Or, everything is expected to come to an end before 3 p.m.
Right, so that's like a general overview. Apart from the president, is anyone else expected to address the gathering?
We don't know that for sure yet. The briefing we've been told is that the president is going to be the lead respondent to all the questions that will come forth. The ministers are only playing supporting role. We've not been told whether they will have the opportunity to also respond to some of these issues. So it is going to be a lonely, adventure by the president this afternoon, starting at 12:30.
Thank you very much, Elton John Brobe, for that update. Now, remember, we'll be crossing over live to the presidency at the banquet hall, to be precise, to bring you live updates of what is happening with regards to the media encounter. Meanwhile, political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Ali Duseidu, has described as a novelty for President Otumfuo Osei to avail himself to the media within his first 6 months of administration to give account of his stewardship. He made the remark during a chat with host of AM show Mamavi Owusu-Abuaje when she sought his view on the president's performance over the last 6 months.
I'll look at the significance in terms of 3 levels. 1, in terms of accountability, which I think is going to achieve, whichever way this process is going to end, will bring an element of accountability. 2, in terms of transparency, I'm yet to see it until I hear what the president is going to say and how he's going to respond to questions. I wouldn't be very sure whether he'll be transparent enough. And then the 3rd has to do with responsiveness. I'm thinking what he is going to say or what they have achieved in 6 months. How does that translate into addressing the needs, grievances, and core challenges of the people? So 3 benchmarks. The first one, I'm very sure is going to happen, accountability. But transparency and responsiveness, until the whole issue or process ends, I'll not be able to tell whether...
But does it make a difference that he's doing this in 6 months?
Yes, I think it's a little bit of precedence. I would think it's an important political precedence that the government is trying to set. Because in the past, it's usually within the first 100 days or sometimes within the first year or 2 years of governance process, where the chief executive officer usually went there, or they pick up policies and visions that he has promised Ghanaians and the level to which those has been achieved. But the first 6 months is a very novel thing that I think this government is introducing.
Let's look at the processes leading to this encounter with the press, where we're told editors or journalists have been selected to be part of this process. So first the president is going to give a prepared speech, and then the journalists present would step forward and ask questions. What do you think about this process?
I think it's like the normal thing we usually have in our press briefings, except that in this case maybe the journalists have been handpicked or selected. Mm-hmm. I don't know, and it has not been made public, or if it's made public, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's what we've been told.
Yeah, what reasons inform the selection of the...
But does it make a difference?
Yeah, I think it does. Critics may argue that the president or the government has just handpicked media that are very friendly to the government. And for that matter, the element of scrutiny will not be much felt compared to maybe if they had picked somebody, a media house which is seen to be unfriendly to government. That is fine if I don't like government.
But we're yet to see the people who
yes,
actually...
So maybe we are jumping the gun, but behind the minds of people who are anti-government, they will think that, why don't you just let anybody come in, give them accreditation and let them ask you questions that they have to ask.
Now, we've also been sampling the views of some experts on selected sectors of the economy to assess the president's performance in his first 6 months in office, and had first Dr. Kwesi Yening, who wants the president to do more as regards the security situation of the country.
For me, one of the most important things has been the institutional processes and mechanisms put in place. Particularly the appointment of a substantive Minister for Security who is answerable to Parliament in terms of the performance of security institutions in this country. If you remember, in the last 8 to 10 years or so, there has been a lacuna in which Parliament could not hold anyone responsible if the institutions did not work. Number two, transition periods always create some difficulties in terms of the control mechanisms that have been put in place for the security sector. But we notice a qualitative shift and change in terms of the president's consistent demands and requests to the IGP, particularly, to perform in a manner that gives confidence to Ghanaians across board. So in terms of the institutional mechanisms and the president's statements, that is extremely very useful. The problem that we are seeing with armed violence is a residual effect of long-standing problems relating to the weaknesses in small arms control, and therefore I think it's fairly natural, or it's fairly to be expected in a transitional phase, that people want to challenge the authority of the state. So all in all, I think the president has shown a good grasp of the security problems that we have and the mechanisms and structures that are needed to be put in place to respond to them.
Many people have had to question the actions of some persons who are in the political party the president is in as well. I'm speaking of the Delta Force, the Invincible Forces. Do you think that the government has acquitted itself well in dealing with these issues?
Well, I think the cases are still in court, and particularly the president has been consistent in dissociating himself from that violence. In the beginning, there was some misunderstanding about the efficacy of the actions undertaken by these vigilante groups, which is actually not a problem for one party.
Now, the executive director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Linda Oforikwafu, feels as far as tackling corruption is concerned, the president is far from resting on his oars.
I believe the president will have to do more when it comes to his efforts at dealing with corruption. I say so because there are various aspects in the anti-corruption fight. We have measures that deal with the preventive aspect, we have enforcement, and we have sanctioning. And you can see that since the president took office, even though he has made several commitments to dealing with the canker, he's still pushing more on the agenda of prosecuting corruption. That is fine, but we should know that that will not holistically deal with the problem. It means that if you don't strengthen the preventive aspect, it will mean people are going to be allowed to do the stealing And when they steal, then we have somebody called the special prosecutor dealing with the person. And that is where I think that the government has to do more on the aspect of prevention and also enforcement. Another thing that you can also talk about has to do with how well they have done in dealing with current challenges or current allegations of corruption. I see the president, as I'm talking about government, what the new administration has been able to do. And if you follow what is happening, I'm sure there have been several allegations since they came to office. Allegations within Parliament as a whole, as an institution, allegations with boss, so many of them. And then how is government handling these kind of allegations that have come up? How swiftly are we dealing with the issues? I don't think that the government is doing very well on that front. I can say so because most people were not very happy with the outcome of the last investigation concerning the parliamentary bribery. And currently we have another one. We are very happy the Speaker is actually giving a directive that they should actually put in place measures to swiftly deal with the issue. We want to hear from government and want to hear from Parliament again how they are going to handle this matter. Some of us have actually called for independent investigations into the matter, and there is the need for us to move beyond even investigating this matter and putting in place mechanisms that will actually regulate the way and manner civil society organizations or other public sector organizations engage with Parliament and make payments of these natures to Parliament.
Now, there's more to be said about this issue of corruption and the special prosecutor to be set up by government, because the U.S. ambassador to Ghana has been making some comments on that. We'll hear that after these messages.